black people with every variable the same are more likely to get pulled over during the day when a cop can see who they are. And then that evens out at night when a cop can't tell who the driver of a car is. Black people are like sentenced longer for the same crimes as white people. So there's like judge disparities. We know with juries, they're more likely to give a guilty verdict if there's a black person in like a video that they see committing a crime. White privilege is the fact that white people don't have to experience the systemic barriers that black people do. We still have white privilege because systemic racism still exists. And to me, I think white privilege is the fact that white people don't have to experience the systemic barriers that black people do.
Okay, so you have laws against black people, or?
No. So it's more of the systemic effects that we see. Like, for instance, we know from the Veil of Darkness study, black people are more likely to get pulled over, even under the exact same situations, like not speeding, no prior stops. Like the Veil of Darkness study took 100 million stops. They weighed everything the same, people with the same driving record who were driving on the same roads at the same speed. And then they also took stops at light, like during the day, and then at night when it was dark out, and they found that black people with every variable the same are more likely to get pulled over during the day when a cop can see who they are, and then that evens out at night when a cop can't tell who the driver of a car is. We also know that black people are like sentenced longer for the same crimes as white people. So there's like judge disparities. We know with juries, they're more likely to give a guilty verdict if there's a black person in like a video that they see committing a crime. So there's like a lot of things that go into it that don't have to have direct policy implications. And then white privilege is the fact that they don't experience that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I'm going to ask a controversial question, but I think it's necessary. Is it also true that black people commit more crimes there?
Black people do probably commit more crimes, but it's not. I know what is it that a lot of people they're like 1350 or whatever the number is. You know, I'm sure you've heard it where people say it's not that blown out of proportion because black people also do disproportionately make up like exonerations for wrongful arrests. But black people are disproportionately more likely to be in poverty, and I would think for that fact they're also more likely to commit crimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I guess we have to start talking about what leads to that poverty and how to solve it, right?
Sure, I would say that that's also systemic racism. Things like redlining, things like the fact that until like 1978, that black people weren't even allowed to own property. So like a lot of wealth, like we would agree wealth is generational, right?
Yeah, for many people, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a monopoly board and why black people were more likely to be in poverty while white people were allowed to run the monopoly board for so many times around, black people weren't allowed to go around. And then when they were allowed to go around, they were allowed to go around, but they couldn't buy properties, right? And now we're allowed to go around and buy properties. And like, so there's all this head start of wealth, and which is generational, which allows a greater opportunity for white people to not be in poverty.
I guess. However, one thing also, don't you think culture a little bit can influence stuff? When people already have this mindset of the world is unfair, it's against me, they're more likely to get into this mentality of becoming gangster or stuff like that.
I don't know, maybe, I guess. I don't think it would be a main driver, but I would also say that you would have to think of what creates that culture, right? I would think a lot of that culture is also systemically conditioned when you're constantly put on the bottom barrel of society, when you're constantly being held back at every turn from society. Obviously, you're going to start getting that outlook. Like, do you know what I don't know how much you read into like sociology, but there's a principle called, it's the self-reflecting image or the self-mirror, or it's something like that. I might be botching it, but essentially it's most people, their view of themselves is subconsciously what they think the world views them as. So we see ourselves through the lens we think the world views us. So when you think the world sees you as lesser than, less capable, less intelligent, you're going to start seeing yourself like that.
And how would you plan to solve that if that's the case?
I would address the barriers that create these disparities. And then I think that there is a bit of like social education that could be had. Like, I think these things should be taught at a young age to children that, hey, like, you're not, there's nothing wrong with you because of the color of your skin. like racism is real. These are things you will have to deal with. Here's the tools that you can equip yourself with to handle it. And just because someone says you're this or that, because you're brown doesn't mean you are. Rather than in America, a lot of conservatives just want us to pretend that racism doesn't exist anymore. And if we never talk about it, then, and that's kind of the way they want to go. And I think that's more harmful than helpful.
Maybe. But those programs, they would not include blaming people because they have white skin or their ancestors, right?
No, I don't think anyone should be blamed. I think that the understanding of white privilege and what it is important, but I don't think that there's any bit of blame that comes into that. No.